Iceland. You probably don't know much about Iceland, but it is an island in the North Atlantic Ocean, somewhere between 5 hours flight to New York and 3 hours flight to the UK. There are about 320,000 people living in Iceland. You heard me right. It is sometimes stated as the island of fire and ice, of strange and mystical landscape, and it is roughly the same size as the state of Kentucky. Iceland was a colony of Denmark until 1945. We are probably best known for the singer Björk, and for being the nation who elected the first woman in the world to be a president. We are also known by a small sector in the world for being the nation who still speaks the language of the Vikings. So all in all, we were a mysterious island stuck in the middle of the North Atlantic Ocean, and not many people knew about us until September 29th, 2008. Then Icelandic legacy rapidly changed from mystery to being the hub, the first country to literally experience the bankruptcy of corporation capitalism. So today, when you Google Iceland, you will get more information about the financial meltdown that brought one of the best of nations in the world to its knees than the things stated above. Unemployment on my island has shot from less than 1% to 10% since October 2008. What happened, one would ask in awe. How is it possible that all the newly privatized banks, 6 years ago the nation owned all the major banks, got basically bankrupt, and the nation had to take them back with debt beyond comprehension? No one knows yet the exact number of our national debt in the aftermath of the greatest financial blunder in the history of our world. Who is to blame for the fact that almost 70% of all our companies are going under? Who is to blame for us being driven back for decades? Who is to blame for the fate of all the people who are losing their savings, their homes, their work, their lives? The head of Central Bank of Iceland, Davíð Oddsson, used to be the prime minister for the right-wing party, ironically called the Independence Party. His party ruled Iceland for 18 years, and many Icelanders see Davíð as the architect of the Great Fall with a little help from his neocon allies. The Independence Party sold everything the nation owned to their friends, including the banks, for peanuts, and surprise, surprise, the nation gets to keep all the debt they created. Davíð Oddsson and the rest of the people governing the central bank are responsible. The government is responsible. The head of the Financial Supervisory Authority is responsible. The Icelandic president is responsible. The 30 infamous business goons who gambled with the banks and moved the money they stole to the Tortola Island are responsible. The media is responsible. There had been warnings, but no one in power cared to listen or to act. Experts from Iceland and abroad warned us, but the media owned by the two biggest business goons, Jón Ásgeir and Björgólfur, ridiculed the people who tried to warn the nation. A sophisticated scam network was woven. Huge amounts of money made out of bubbles changed hands. People were lured into unsafe saving traps in Iceland and in the UK, and they targeted old people and low-income people specifically. People took huge loans in foreign currency and believed every word from the self-proclaimed good fairies, the business goons. Their staff in the bank had been told to put pressure on getting people's savings into high-risk accounts disguised as low-risk accounts. The money was sucked out right away and moved to accounts at the Tortola Island. The banks had grown so huge that when they collapsed, they had outstanding debt to be equivalent to roughly 10 times the country's GDP. The irony is that none of the rich people have been questioned by authorities. No one has been put in jail. Their money and assets have not been frozen during investigation, and we fear that the investigation will be whitewashed. We are basically in full meltdown mode. We are busted. We are a mafia island, and yet they call it democratic. Well, welcome to the 21st century depression. No one knows what will happen next. Well, I have to talk about the revolution, the first ever revolution in Iceland. In the beginning, the first protests against the corruption, people were polite, as they always are. No noise, no civil disobedience. Some brought homemade signs, some spoke with fire in their voice, but below one could almost taste the anger boiling in the heart and soul of those that had lost everything. We had been lied to on such a grand scale that we are still shocked and dazed by the amount of corruption and swindle unraveled every day. But finally the nation woke up in such a way that no one in power could ignore it. Thousands of Icelanders poured to the streets in January despite the cold weather and darkness around the clock. Noise protest almost every day at the banks, outside the offices of the government, outside parliament. Emails poured into the email accounts of the government, the newspapers, the blogs filled with uncomfortable truths about the people in power. The nation saw that the protest was effective, and finally, after many small victories, after violent clashes with the police outside the parliament building, and with the majority of the nation supporting the protests, the government was forced to resign in January. The people in power responsible would never have left office if we, the nation, would not have had our revolution, because there is no tradition in Iceland for people in power taking responsibility for mistakes by resigning. And we will make the same noise until we will have new people in power, until we have got rid of the marriage between corporate power and government, and we will not give up. And please forgive us for having such unfit people in power in Iceland. Our corrupt governing body will make many more mistakes. Every day they carry on making unbelievable blunders internationally and nationally. Last thing the right-wing party did before we got rid of them was to resume whaling. We will try to stop the blunders they carry on doing. But they have their people in every possible high-ranking bureaucratic post, and it's hard to get rid of them. But Icelanders are just awakening. We are just realizing that we have always been suppressed by the Progressive and the Independency Party. We have never been free from the colonized mindset, but we are awakening. To get more information about the Icelandic financial crisis and the revolution, read the new article by Naomi Klein titled "All of Them Must Go." She draws parallels in the article between what happened in Iceland and Argentina. What worries me is the fact that there is no emergency plan in Iceland on how to deal with the crisis. There is only the plan on how to get re-elected. We need urgently expert help on how to uproot corruption that is buried so deep that we are ranked among the least corrupt nation in the world according to international standards. What a sick joke. So, how can you help? Well, this is how I think we can all help each other. We as humanity have a rare chance to change our ways. Because if we don't, there will be nothing left for our children and grandchildren. There will be no earth left. And the Great Depression is gonna hit us all. So let us join hands, no matter from where we come from. and start to act out of compassion from the heart. Because too much energy in our world is spent developing the mind. It is time to start working on the matters of the heart. And remember, we own the system. We are the people. And we need to take responsibility for how we want the future of the world to be. So let us gather all honest experts and activists and draw a mutual global blueprint for the collective well-being of humanity.
Ég hef líka orðið mát og undan látið skríða. Enginn veit hvað einn á bát og við margt að stríða.
Þegar ég eigði engin lönd og ekkert fann ég skýli, þá hefur